Have you ever wondered why you attract certain people or experiences into your life?
On today's show, we're going to be talking about emotions and attraction. It's Awaken Your Spirit. Stay tuned.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Awaken Your Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And our show's about inspiration, motivation, and developing the mindset to live a happy and abundant life.
We are live here every Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Eastern. If you guys would like to join us here on the show, make sure if you're watching here on Facebook or on YouTube, for Facebook, make sure you turn on the live notification button here in the feed. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and tap that little bell icon so you always know when we have a new video that's posted. Today, we're going to be talking about our emotions and how our emotions play a key part in what we attract into our life. But before we get into that, we always like to start off with our first segment of our show, which is our inspirational moment with Veronica.
So inspirational moments is when I like to read something inspirational. And today I have something that I'm going to read from a book. It's called You Can Heal Your Life, and it's by Louise Hay. And we've shared this book before, so it's really interesting. It goes over the diseases that we carry in our body and what the emotional side of it is telling us. But this one, it's talking about like a kind of like a positive affirmation. It says, "In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. Change is the natural law of my life. I welcome change. I am willing to change. I choose to change my thinking. I choose to change the words I use. I move from the old to the new with ease and with joy. It is easier for me to forgive than I thought. Forgiving makes me feel free and light. It is with joy that I learn to love myself more and more. The more resentment I release, the more love I have to express. Changing my thoughts makes me feel good. I am learning to choose to make today a pleasure to experience. All is well in my world." And that's by Louise Hay, and it's called You Can Heal Your Life.
And I think if people really understand that concept of it's really a credo or an affirmation that you put in there when you say these things, you're really putting that into your subconscious mind. What I like about that is if you look at it and we say that over and over again, eventually we're going to believe that, we're going to remember that each time. And we can do our own. You can follow the ones here in the book or any other affirmations of positivity that will help you in changing a lot of things in your life. But part of that is really expand and change your consciousness so you can attract better things.
Yeah.
And part of that is, so your body can heal as well. And forgiveness is a big part of that.
Yeah, because I think, we've heard of it, like, when you're under stress or you hold on to things, you get sick, but it's really a true thing. Like the more you hold on to old hurts, negative beliefs, and even beliefs about yourself, the body will start to show you. If you keep telling yourself, "Oh, I'm," and you hear this a lot when people turn a certain age, like, "Oh, I'm turning 50 now, and now my body's going to start to hurt." Like they're putting that programming in their mind, and it's like, why can't you feel like you're 20? Even if you are 50.
And I think part of that too is it's like having that type of a mantra. Oh, it's just I'm old, I'm getting there. And when something starts to go wrong, and we're talking about within our body, I think people just accept that's the way it is, and they never make the effort to try to change that. Maybe there's something that needs to be corrected, and that's a big thing. That's one in the world that I was trained in was health and healing. But I understood there was so much more than just the physical aspect. There are a lot of emotional aspects and stressors that create physical stuff. And with the right mindset, we can change who we are. We can heal, we can do great things, but we have to understand that first.
Yeah. And you hear like people say, "Oh, my knee hurts. It must be old age." But then how come the other knee doesn't hurt?
The other knee's younger.
The other knee's younger.
Food for thought, right? So that was the inspirational moment for today. If you guys enjoyed that, give us some hearts, give us some likes here into the feed, some thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube as well. If you're new, type here into the comments that you're new. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're tuning in from, because we love seeing that people from all over the world will tune in. And if you have any questions and comments, you can also put those here into the feed as well. And we'll get to your comments and questions as we go through our show here today. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is emotions and attraction. Mm-hmm. And we started talking about this already. And I think there's the buzz about attraction, law of attraction has been going on. It's been talked about for years, decades, centuries. But it really became popularized back in mid 2000 when the movie The Secret came out. Mm-hmm. And it took a lot of buzz. A lot of people are learning this. A lot of people are using it and getting great results with it. But there's also there's been a lot of miscommunication with that, and really how we attract things into our life. And most people would started to believe that if I just think about what I really, really want, I can just sit here and it's going to come to me. Like the magic genie. I rub the lamp, I say what I want, and bam, here it is. But there really is a lot more to that. And if you understand the fine tuning of it, then you can really start to work with this energy, because it is a universal law of attraction, law of vibration. These are universal if you know how to work them properly. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to some of the comments here.
So Stephen says, hello, and Aaron Veronica.
Hey,
I'm
Steven.
Trying to watch with a low band connection from Sarasota, Florida. But at least you're on.
Yeah.
High, low, as long as you got us, let us know. And again, if you guys get cut off, we're here live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So make sure you can catch us both there. I will put the YouTube link here into the chat here so you guys can have access to that. And make sure you subscribe to that page, because you can always come back and watch the replays and anything new that we have posted there as well.
Yeah, we also have Debbie Gordon Warnock tuning in. Hey, Debbie, thank you for joining us.
She finally caught us live. Finally caught us live. Say hello. We'd love to hear from you guys. Here's the link here you guys can put into the comments here. It's a long thing here, but that is our YouTube channel. You guys can subscribe to that page.
And we also have Gil Solis watching. So you're not in Facebook jail anymore? Maybe.
Facebook jail. That's why I put them on YouTube. There's always a way to find us. So always remember that. So as we're talking about emotions and attraction, and this is one of the biggest things that we teach a lot of our clients, and also in a lot of the videos we do. If you guys are familiar with us, you've been here quite often, we talk about this. But the reason why we always talk about it is because in the repetition, you hear about it over and over again. Eventually, it's going to click in at some point.
Yeah, it has to be repetitive in order for it to sink in, because a lot of times when we read a book maybe once and you put it away and then you forget about it. Mm-hmm. And you kind of remember a few things, but the more you can soak into that information, or soak that information into your mind, the better, because you're constantly seeing it, you're constantly hearing it. And it really changes your mindset when you hear it over and over. If you just heard it once and that was it, you'll forget about it.
Yeah. Or you forget some of the fine tuning pieces into that and wondering why this isn't working for me. And you go back, and you're choking on my coffee. And you go back and Stephen says, law of attraction is why certain people and situations show up in our lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I've found this many times when we do our studying, is I'll get the concept, I'll understand it, and then I'll work with it. And then eventually I'll have an experience later on. And I'll go back and read the same book, and I find that I pick up more information because things that maybe I couldn't comprehend at that time in the reading and the teaching. And now that I've had the experience of it, it makes more sense, and I can polish it up a little bit more. And I'm always learning. We're always learning. We learn just by sharing things with you guys. We learn from you guys as well. And that's pretty much how life is. It's one big experimentation of just what works and what doesn't. And if we're talking about emotions and attraction, this is one thing that we've really been working with, for many years now. And what we come to understand is our emotions dictate and play a major role into how we attract certain people into our life. It plays a major role in how we experience our life around us, and whether we're going to have a happy, fulfilled life, or we're going to be, discouraged, we're going to be frustrated with everything that's going on. But we really have control over that. Yeah. And we have to learn how to take control over our emotions, because they can affect you in every area, from your health, your relationships, and even your income, your career, your business.
Yeah. And a lot of what you attract, it really goes down to your mental attitude. And so what is your mental attitude? Is it a positive mental attitude or a negative mental attitude? And that's with everyone around you, with yourself, with the people you live with. It's like, how do you respond or react to people that are around you? Say they're doing something and it's annoying, and then you get so angry that you allow that little tiny annoyance to get you so riled up, and it's changing your body chemistry, and it's not doing you any good. Mm-hmm. So like, why do people hold on to things like that, or why do they allow someone else's actions to dictate how they feel?
Yeah, and a lot of it, and this is my personal belief and opinion, would be, we're conditioned that way. Mm-hmm. What was the environment that we all grew up in? We all grew up in different environments, and we all perceive our environments so much more differently. And we pick up the same habits from our parents. You're actually picking up habits from your grandparents and like almost 3 generations, because everybody's passing it down from one generation to the next. Mm-hmm. And if we pick up the same patterns, we're going to end up being somewhat similar, or experiencing similar things as our parents and grandparents and great grandparents did.
Yeah.
And so when we learn that I'm going to stop this, I'm going to stop the pattern, I'm going to change this, because you have the power to change that. Mm-hmm. And so some people are conditioned to that, or they're conditioned to focus on all the bad things that are going around. People are conditioned to worry about things often. Mm-hmm. But you're also conditioned some people are conditioned not to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, it's sad, but you see it out there. But we have direct control over how we feel. And if we just understand that, then we're back in power. We give power back to ourselves, that we can change what we want in our life.
Yeah. And that's up to you. Like Aaron said, we have that control and that power, but you have to make that decision. Like, I choose to change the way I think starting today. Or if like for years, if you've thought a certain way about people, about yourself, make that decision. If you really want your life to change, make that decision. Like, I'm going to change, and start watching things that are more positive, hanging out with people that are more positive. Even just the way you talk to yourself and others, make it more positive, because everything starts with you and how you think, and what you're putting out to the universe, what you're, projecting on other people, that always comes back. Also, not even just what you say to other people, but what you think about them. Because if you're thinking negative about somebody else, even if they annoy you or they do little things that you might not like, and then you start thinking negative towards them, that energy just comes back to you. So why would we want that for ourselves? And it's like something that always stuck to me since I was a child was treat others the way you would like to be treated. And but that's also how you feel about yourself, how you think about yourself. If you're thinking negative about yourself, then you're going to tend to attract people that are more negative, even if you're being nice, because that can happen as well.
And there's so much, but it's how it affects you on the inside. You talked about attitude earlier. And what is our attitude? Our attitude really is the sum total of our thoughts and our emotions. And the thoughts and emotions go hand in hand. People thought law of attraction, The Secret. I think about what I want. I really want that. I want money. I want a great relationship. I want a house. Everything that the material stuff that they put on there. I want to be just like those people and attract what I want. So they're thinking about what they want rather than why isn't it happening? And some people, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
It's like, what was the difference between the two? Well, the biggest thing is people will think about something, but at an internal level, it's the emotion. Our emotions are what amplify that energy. We have this. We talk about the law of vibration. The vibration is the frequency that we resonate at. It's what energy are we putting out to the world. And our vibration is compiled of our thoughts. Our thoughts have a frequency and vibration. Our emotions have a frequency and a vibration that we put out. We can think something that travels out, but the moment you put an emotion behind that, good or bad, it's going to amplify that thought. And so if someone's thinking about what they want, so they want a new house, they want more income in their life, they want a great relationship. But in the back of their mind, the emotion that's behind that really is a fear. that's putting out, now they're amplifying that energy with fear, and it pushes that even more away, or they start to attract again what they're currently experiencing,
situations that create more fear.
Yeah, because they resonate with that situation. When you have certain people in your life, at some level, you resonate with that person in some way, even if they seem completely different from you. At a deeper level, at an emotional internal level, they may be completely similar. And we found that sometimes these people show up in our lives because it's to let us know areas that we might need to change if we want to change them.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times the people that we meet, sometimes it can be a reflection of us, because and especially if you're noticing something about them that maybe you don't like, or maybe you do like. It just depends what it is, and it could be like a reflection, like, oh, I don't like that about that person, but then you're doing the same thing, or you do similar things, maybe not the exact same thing, but something similar. And so it's whatever you're putting out, it's just a reflection. Also, I think with attracting people, a lot of times they're not satisfied, or they look at all the negative that comes with it, and they don't see what they've attracted. Like if they're asking for something and then they receive it, they don't really see that they received it, because they're finding all the negative that comes with it, or all the negative that they're pointing out. So they could have asked for a house, and say you go from an apartment to a house, and they wanted a house, but then they're finding all the flaws with the house. This is broken, and then it needs a lot of work, but you wanted a house, right?
Yeah. And some of these were our own personal experiences. Yeah. This is why we talk about them. And when we pay attention to, we are the ones that created our situation. We attracted all these things. And if you're unsatisfied with that, well, just pay attention that we're the ones that created that. We can always go back to, trace it all back to a thought process, an idea. And that's what it comes down to, how we were feeling throughout the time. And as we go through our life, our thoughts and our feelings will determine the actions that we take. It'll determine our attitude towards things. And as you were talking about earlier, it's like, what do we focus on? Your thoughts, if you're focused on all the negative, you're putting all your energy into that, and you're going to see more of that, and everything else is going to bypass you. Is there good that's still going on around all of us? Absolutely. There's opportunity for everybody. There's multiple opportunities and things that we can do in our life if we want to change. But we have to be able to take our eyes off of what we don't want and focus on what we do want. And we have to train ourselves to keep that concentration, because our minds are so distracted these days. There's so much information overload, so many things that's going on. We have to train ourselves and recondition ourselves to focus on the things that we want, and make it a determination that today I'm going to feel good. Everything I do today is what's going to show up tomorrow, the next day, and so forth in the future. And that's the power of now, that present moment. And so we have to focus on what we're doing today if we want things to change.
Yeah, because it takes the same amount of energy to focus on something negative than it does something positive. So if you're focusing, and you're pretty much wasting energy by focusing on all the negative, because it doesn't make you feel good. And I've mentioned this before. If you're focusing on something and you're getting frustrated just by even thinking about it, then why are you thinking about it? That's a waste of energy. Like focus your energy on all the positive stuff, things that you want to see in your life versus what you don't like. What you see in front of you is because of all the thinking you did prior to that. And that's just what manifested. But you still have the choice to change your way of thinking, to focus on what you want and see the positive of where you are right now in this moment. And there's always something good with every situation, even if it appears bad in the moment, because we are the creators of our life. And if you can find the good, even in a situation that doesn't look so good to a lot of people, now you're ahead, because you're putting good energy into what you want to see.
Yeah. Let's say hello to a few people here. So Stephen says, the law of attraction is a principal law of nature. Like you said, it's the vibration frequency that comes back to us based on our thought energy. Gil says, I'm on YouTube now. He finally got us on YouTube. He says, thank you. You're very welcome.
You're welcome.
Stephen also says, I really enjoy this broadcast. I learned from the best. Aaron Garcia and Veronica Mendez, #Awaken Your Spirit. And if you know there's anybody that can benefit from the message of this show that might really need to hear something like this, they might be going through something very challenging right now. This information could help them. So share this with them, tag them here into the comments, and just, spread the joy around, spread the message. And because we never know who this message is going to impact. If it just helps one person out, that's what helps us. That's what gives us satisfaction here.
Yeah. And, it's up to us. And Guillermo says, yes, we do that to ourselves. We do. Like, why?
and from experience, like, I've done it to myself. We share our own experiences and things that we work through, because it's not just, we just read these things out of a book. We study, but we have the experience as well.
Yeah.
That's why we talk so strongly about this. And it's interesting because I've done that. When you're focused on something that displeases you, what I discovered was, like, everything just takes a back seat. You're so focused on that one thing, and you want to. It's like you want to keep your eyes glued to it. Some people keep their eyes glued to everything that's going wrong on the TV and the news. Some people are just stuck on what other people are doing, and they're not focusing on themselves and what they could be doing. And it is a waste of energy. I mean, it drains your energy. It can actually create illness and sickness in your body, because what is it doing? It's stirring up a lot of emotion, a lot of negative emotion, whether that's anger, maybe it's something that's making you sad or depressed. And
you feel tired. Like you're just draining your energy. And at the end of the day, because you're wasting so much energy on whatever wasn't even serving you, you're just drained at the end of the day. And for what?
And when you become aware of this, and that's the biggest thing, is like, just catch yourself and say, if you find yourself going down like that negative rabbit hole, stop yourself and say, I'm going to choose to focus on something different. Distract your mind with something to do that's productive for you, that's going to make a difference, and get your mind off that, and just put all your energy into that thing, rather than focus on everything that you don't want over here. Because the moment you're focused on you can't focus on two things at the same time. And so if you're focusing on the negative, you're missing it on all the good and the positive and the opportunity. You're focusing on all the good and the positive and the opportunity, everything seems to work out better for you. Yeah. And if we've all experienced this at some point. You ever notice when you're in a bad mood, and that day it just seems like everything just tends to go wrong. You're running late for appointments. You hit all the red lights. There's more traffic. Something breaks, whatever that might be. And it just seems like everything just goes wrong. And in those days, you feel really, really good. You're positive. You're excited about things. It seems like you're driving down the street, you hit all the green lights.
Even if you're trying to do a show and the dogs are barking in the background, if you're in a good mood, it's not going to bother you.
It doesn't, And it's like, it's those little things. And you find the more you condition yourself to focus on good, other things don't bother you. They don't trigger you as much.
Yeah.
Now, there's a big part of this is there has to be a lot of internal healing that goes on to help with this. Because why do we tend to focus on things? Why do we feel the way that we do? And a lot of times it could be something that's going against our values, our belief systems, based on experiences that we've had in our life. And a lot of times we need to do inner healing and maybe do some forgiveness on, you're still focused on what someone did to you 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Or even if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, like that's still dwelling on something, even if it's, fairly new, but it's not serving you by focusing on that.
And really using our emotions for something good, because we have negative emotions such as, anger, fear, resentment, there's hurt, there's guilt, all these emotions that are very destructive to our body and our physical well-being. But there's the opposites too. There's love, there's compassion, there's joy, there's excitement. There's, those are the energies that we really want to try to be in as often as we can. Will we get knocked down once in a while? Absolutely. But that's there to show us, to help us to grow more, to realize, wow, there's something that's showing up here in my life that I need to work through. I'm going to choose to work through this and maybe do some inner healing, or maybe do some forgiveness work of why this is showing up. And I'm going to work on it now. So that way, if it shows up again in the future, I'm not going to get triggered by it. It's not going to affect my energy. It's not going to take my focus away from what I really want to do. And we work through those each time. Your emotions guide you. They are your direct connection to that higher power that we all come from. And the moment we get caught up in all these negative emotions, it's going to create static. It's going to affect what we attract into our life. It's going to affect how we think. It's going to affect our mood. It's going to affect everything.
So that's why when something happens, it's just take that breath. If it aggravates you at the beginning, okay, stop and then take that breath. And then allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to release that emotion that you're feeling, because it's okay. We're human and we're going to feel emotions. And, just allow yourself to feel it. Just breathe through it, feel it, and understand that if it's involving another person, like say they said something to you that wasn't so nice, understand that they have their own stuff too. And they could be projecting on you for maybe you did something, maybe it wasn't even anything wrong, but it took like that little thing to just like blow the top, and now they're reacting, or they're reacting to you and just maybe yelling, or they did something, but it's like they're on their own journey, and you have to understand that they have emotions and there's stuff that they have to work through as well as we do. And if there's something that bothers us and that comes up in our experience, that's a good thing, because it's telling us, okay, here's something else that I need to work on. And that's a good thing when things like that happen, because all the challenges and the most difficult people in our life, those are the people that actually help us grow, because it's helping us to have that awareness, like, wow, like this person really made me mad, but why? Or
this situation too,
or the situation, whatever it is. And you have an opportunity to clear those emotions that are still there, probably from the past, clear any triggers that are still there from the past, and move forward. Forgiveness, like Aaron mentioned earlier, is a big one.
Yeah. So we have a few people joining on. We have Natalie Chatra joining us. She says, can I have a reading? If you're talking about a numerology reading, we do those on Thursdays with our guest and the co-host Darius, that will be on there. So if that's what you're looking for, you want to join us on Thursdays for those readings. But yes, we will do those. That's when we're doing those, on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. If there's something else you're looking for, let us know here into the feed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like whatever shows up in our lives, it's just take that as a blessing and say, okay, this happened, and I'm grateful that this happened, because I'm going to be a better person because of it.
Yeah. And Debbie says, lessons taught, lessons learned. That's life.
Yeah.
That is life. And we all go through this thing called life. We all deal with our emotions, and it's learning how do we work through those. And we just pay attention how you feel. We get so disconnected from how we feel. And this is one of the challenges that I grew up with, for many years, is not paying attention to how I felt. And I also see this with, people that we work with. They're so disconnected from how they feel. There's people that, they find ways to train their mind not to feel, and they disconnect from everything that's going on. And you'll start to see that they start to get this emotional reaction when you start talking about things. We'll ask them, well, how does that make you feel? And they distract themselves when they start to feel something, because people might have been taught that emotions are not a good thing to deal with. They're not a good thing to feel. And they find strategies to avoid that through distracting. And some people do it through being busy with things. They distract themselves by over talking or overthinking things. There's so many different ways to distract ourselves from our emotions. But once we learn how to tune into our own selves, we start to understand ourselves better.
Yeah. And overworking, I think you mentioned that, right? About people who work too much or do too many things. I did that in the past, where I had all these different jobs in order to avoid certain things, like keep my mind distracted. So I was working like 5 different jobs, not all in one day, but I'd go from one job to another, and I was just always busy. And it after a while, it does it does catch up to you. So it was interesting, knowing what I know now, to look back, and it's like, wow, that's interesting. Like I was doing that. I was trying to distract myself.
Yeah. And so Natalie says it's her first time here, and I think she was talking about earlier about doing like a love reading.
Okay, Darius could could probably like give them your, usually it's the date of birth, but if you join us on Thursdays, he could do something like that for you.
Yeah. And if you're looking for something for today, if there's a challenge that's going on in your life, and if it's about in love and relationships, you can let us know maybe what's been going on, and at least we can maybe give you some advice. We're talking about emotions and attraction. We help people in relationships all the time. And think about it, like let people maybe want to attract a great relationship into their life. Whether they're single, they want to attract that right person, or if they're in a relationship, they want to strengthen that relationship. And everything's going to come down to how we think and how we feel and how we perceive other people in our life. We get a lot of people that, they're having a hard time attracting a person into their life. And, I had this for years. You had certain things that were going on, but we find that based on our vibration, how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And again, it's always going to come back to us. Always put that mirror in front of us. How do we think and feel when it comes to, let's say, relationships? And what does it make you feel to be in a relationship? And what does that look like? And have you identified what that relationship looks like? Because here's another thing is, if we are unclear of what it is that we want in our life, then the universe is just going to throw whatever it can at us because we're not being very specific.
Yeah.
And the moment you identify clearly what it is that you want, that'll set an energy up in a direction, and the more you focus on it. But imagine like you don't know what it is that you really want to attract. It's like, how could you attract it? And then you receive things in your life and you're like, I didn't really want this. Well, you kind of did because you weren't really specific. You just named a couple things here. And that's how really a lot of this might work.
Yeah. And sometimes like how we feel about ourselves, well, and this is most of the time, all the time, how we feel about ourselves. Like say you have low self-esteem, or maybe there's something where you have like some victim type of energy in your body, and then you attract people that will probably put you down, possibly abuse you. There's so many different factors to that, but it's really how you truly feel about yourself on the inside. And if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, it just depends what's the dialogue that goes on in your mind. And also subconsciously, there could be something, an experience that happened from childhood. So say your parents were constantly fighting, and these are the people that love you, and you see that as a married couple, they're constantly fighting and putting each other down. So when you get older, you can either attract the same exact situation, like someone that makes you mad and then you're constantly fighting, or you can choose to say, well, that's a great example of something that I don't want, so I choose, something different. And you can go one extreme or the other. And a lot of times you attract what you saw growing up as a child. So if your mom was abused and you saw that a lot as a child, you might tend to attract either people who are abusive physically, but if not physically, it could be mentally. And, mental abuse is just as worse as physical abuse, because that really gets lodged into your subconscious mind, and then you don't feel good about yourself. And that's something that it's a great example of, like, okay, this is something that happened, and it's a good example to choose what you do want now, because you lived that, you saw it didn't feel good, so you choose the opposite. And it's there to show us and to decide what we really do want in our life.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we went through this, or at least I went through this process, and I know you did as well. This was back in 2011. We shared this before, but for those that are new, you can hear how we, and this is really what, stood out in my mind, and where a lot of this work came from too, that when Veronica and I started working with clients together, is before we met, I spent some time as a single person. And one of the things I felt, I was living by myself, and I had a good career. I was doing things that I wanted to do, but there is still that part of me that just felt empty. And I wanted to be able to share that experience with somebody else. And I had some, relationship issues in the past, until I finally went to an event where we did a lot of internal healing, some of the stuff that I was trained to do emotionally. And this is where I really allowed myself to be vulnerable. I allowed myself to really just express what it is that was going on within me. And at this time, that's where they taught me how to really identify and be clear of what it is that I really wanted to attract. And at that time, like, I wanted a great relationship in my life. And I felt I was ready for that. And that's a key thing is, are you ready for it? Are you really, really wanting to attract that thing? When you say that I'm ready for it, you set up an energy that, okay, let's go. And so I did a lot of internal work. I had to release a lot of limiting belief systems that happened from past experiences that emotion was still lodged within my nervous system. And so it would trigger a lot of, fears and anxiety every time I would think about it. And I was finally able to heal from that and actually get that out of my system. And when that happens, the body calms down. And then I took that energy and I focused on what I wanted to create. I wrote everything down. And then from there, I even did like the vision board. So I put so much energy in what I wanted to focus on rather than focus on what I didn't want, right? So there's a difference. Don't focus on what you don't want in a relationship. You focus on what you do want. And you get to create that. Don't feel like, well, I can only do this. No, you get to be the creator. You describe exactly what it is that you want. And when I wrote that down, I cleared energy out. I just went home. It's like, okay, I did that. Still kept it on my mind. And 6 months later, I met Veronica. 8 years later, we're married. And we're going to be celebrating our 2nd year anniversary here at the end of this month. And when I took out that folder about 2 years after we were together, I found it in the closet. I opened it, I went to that page, and I read what I wanted in my relationship, and it was exactly everything that I said that I had. And it was just so amazing to see that, because I changed within me. And when we change ourselves on the internal, our outside world changes. So everything starts within us first. We have to work on our thoughts. We have to clear and heal from our emotions and change the way we look and see things and feel about them. And that's going to change your whole mental attitude on your outlook of life and the world around you. And you start to attract different things.
Yeah, because it's not just about thinking it or saying it. It's the emotion will amplify it even more. So it's the feeling part of it that really will give strength to your thoughts and what you write down. That's why when we teach people about manifesting and things like that, it's like, see yourself where you want to be, or see yourself what it is you want, but then now get into the feeling of it, like if you have it already, or like if you're there already, because the feeling really amplifies it. So we want to be in that good positive state, because like if you're writing down your goals, but then there's things in the back of your mind that are maybe creating negative thoughts, like oh, I want this, but I'll probably never have it. Now you're feeding it negative energy, and because you're telling yourself that, you're probably right, you probably won't have it because you're telling yourself that. So it's very important to be aware of what you tell yourself, how you're feeling in the moment when you're saying to the universe or declaring what you want or where you want to be.
Yeah, because that's going to determine and give you the energy to start taking the right action steps. So we still have to do things. We can't just sit down and wait for it to come up. Sometimes it happens, but it depends on also what we put in place and before that. And I think that's why everybody's rate of attraction is different. And sometimes, depending on what you're looking to attract into your life, it might be something really big that might need time to germinate, to come into fruition. There's going to be some things you're going to have to do, areas you're going to have to work on emotionally, mentally, in order for you to grow into that person that you want to be, that's at that vibration that matches and is in resonance with that end goal that you have in your mind, that vision, that dream. And in order and we have big goals, visions, or dream, we realize that we're going to have to be different people to be at that level, and we're changing that daily. And eventually, one point, we're gonna notice that, hey, we finally made it. And you know what's going to happen from there? There's going to be a bigger vision from there. We're to keep moving forward.
It's never ending.
It's never ending. We've been working on ourselves and our emotions for over almost 2 decades, maybe each, like over 30 years together, and we still find there's stuff.
There's always stuff, and if it's not in this life, sometimes we get stuff from the past life, which is interesting. That I always had an interest in that, where emotions come up from a past life, and it's interesting, like, because you can really see images that pop up in your mind. It's an energy. So if you lived a life before this one and something traumatic happened, and it's like when we do the process, like you'll get a snapshot of something. And it's always interesting to see that, but there's, how many past lives have we had? Because then we don't remember all of them.
Good thing. It'd be way too much.
Oh yeah.
And so as things are coming into our life, different experiences, no matter what's happening, one of the biggest things we talk about, okay, if you understand now, if you've been following with us, is if I really want to track things, I need to feel as good as possible often. And if something is going to show up that's going to try to bring my energy down, that bring my vibration down, I mean, it's going to make me feel bad, it's going to take me off course, then it's like learning how to work through those situations. And one of the biggest things that we do is like, no matter what comes into your life, good or bad, say thank you for that. Thank you for the experience, because even if it's a negative experience, you're going to grow from that. You're going to be, think about the worst thing that might have happened into your life. You can look back. Could we sometimes say, and I know I say this a lot, if that had not had happened, I would not be the person that I am today. I would not be where I am today. I would not have met the people that I would have met because of that experience. And where would I be if I was still there, or if that didn't happen? That's the butterfly effect. And so be grateful for those experiences, because they are pushing you in a direction where you might need to go if you pay attention to it. Some people, it happens and they never learn the lesson, and it keeps happening. And I find it's like the universe, God, your higher self, whatever that is, it's these experiences will show up over and over again until you learn that, because you're not paying attention to it.
Yeah. And you hear people say, why does this keep happening to me? And I keep, I keep getting into these types of relationships with the same type of person, or this always happens to me where people are ripping me off. Like, well, there's probably an energy within you that you're carrying or putting out that attracts that. And it's just discovering what the underlying issue is, which we can help with that.
Yeah. And Debbie says, some of us stuff them. Talk about emotions. Not good.
Yeah.
And because what happens when you stuff emotion, you're not expressing that. And it's like a pressure cooker. And it's going to create different moods within you. And you're going to find that some people will bottle it up. And if they don't find a way to express that, it's going to express itself in their own body. It's going to express itself in their behavior. Just watch people and look at their expressions on their face and their body posture. It's going to show what they might be holding on to. People that are in pain because they're not letting go of things from the past. They might correlate it. I did this. I'm just not doing that. But they may not realize that there's a negative thought process. There's an emotion that's in there that's creating these things in the body. And I've experienced this myself, and we've done this with many people. The moment you clear out the emotional stuff, their body starts to heal.
Debbie says, yep.
She says, yep. So Gil says, at any age, depends on where he was mentioning that, what we were talking about. He says, an ancient Chinese doctor told me that in all my past lives, I was a warrior. Interesting. And then he says, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but always a warrior.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that's like not giving up. Like you're constantly pushing through things, and like whether it's bad and whatever's happening. In the past there was a lot of wars and things like that, but always fighting for what's right.
Yeah, and think about it. What a warrior, when they're going through battle, eventually they may get hurt, they may get injured, and as long as they survive, they can recover from that, and they learn from different experiences. And we're always in that battle of our own consciousness while we're here in this life. We battle with our emotions, we battle with our thoughts on a day-to-day basis. And how do we work with that? It's our senses try to take over. And you think about it, just our sense of sight is so limited in what it can take in and what it can see, that the rest of the world, we have to almost create it in our imagination what it's like. And think about this. Most conflict, most upsets or angers are dealt because of stem from misunderstanding. Something happens, someone says something, and they might say, well, I said this, and what did you mean by that? Or they don't say that, but the person makes up what they meant by that without really clarifying.
Yeah.
And then they make it up, and maybe it's a trigger from something that had happened to you in the past, and you hate when people say something like that, or they don't say something or do something that becomes a trigger, and that affects relationships.
So they create their own story in their mind based on their past experience of what happened. And it's like, oh, they said this, so they mean this, this, and this, where it could be completely off sometimes.
Yeah, our good friend Martin Lopez, he created this concept called the curiosity theory, and I've learned a lot from him in this because it coincides a lot what we believe in. But just by being curious, by when there's a miscommunication, misunderstanding with something, just say, hey, I'm curious. What did you mean by that? Without any judgment, without any anger, just I always want to make sure that there's clarification of what that person is really trying to say, because I know that I've been on that other end where I might have said something and someone took it in a different way, but that's not how I meant it to be. But for some reason, for them, they took it in a certain way, and I had to clarify that, and vice versa. And we never know what sometimes people mean unless we ask them. And how many of us really ask? We just assume things happen in life. And think about the news. You know, what information are you hearing? You only have so much information that you're trying to gather all this, your thoughts and belief systems around. And without having all of the facts and figures on things, again, we tend to make it up. And that's how belief systems are created.
Yeah. And it depends, like, because sometimes by someone asking, well, what did you mean by that? It depends on the other person. Sometimes if they're negative thinking, just by you asking that could probably trigger them. Like, oh, well, they're not listening to me, or, you know, we've heard that before where someone will ask like for clarification, and it's like they're not paying attention, but it just everyone has their own triggers and things like that. So don't take it personal. That's what I've learned is, like, when someone gets upset about something, don't take it personal. When someone cuts you off on the road, don't take it personal, because you don't even know the person.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with you. And if they want to go driving like a maniac, that's their problem.
The biggest thing is do what you can for you to feel good. If somebody's there's gonna be people, or there's gonna be situations that are always gonna happen around us, and there's bad things that are happening around us. But if we choose to focus on that, then we're gonna feel bad on the inside. And think about that. Just notice how you feel. And what are you focusing on. If you start to notice, just pay attention to your feeling, which is part of your emotions. That's your subconscious mind. That's our programming. That subconscious is the emotional mind. That's the seat of the emotions. Our body is the emotional filter. So we will feel all of that. And that's going to guide us and let us know, you know, where's our attention? Where's our focus? Are we attracting the right things into our life? And your emotion, like we said earlier, it amplifies your thoughts. Yeah. So if you're thinking about something negative, what's going to happen? You're probably going to attach another emotion to that. It could be emotion of anger. It could be emotion of fear or worry. And you're going to amplify that. You're going to see more things. Now, if you're focused on what you do want, you amplify that with joy, with love, with excitement.
Give it the good energy, the good positive thoughts and emotions too.
Because energy is energy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you get to choose what that is. And if you choose to focus on all the negative, well, that's your choice. That's somebody else's choice as well. But then try not to focus on what other people are doing. Focus on what you're doing. And focus on how you feel, regardless of what other people are thinking. Regardless of what other people are doing, is you focus on you. And what's going to happen, the more you focus on you, the better you start to feel. It's fascinating, because you're going to find that a lot of those people, a lot of those experiences, you don't tend to see them as often. They're still there.
Yeah.
But your focus, you're not looking at it. You're going to attract more happier, positive people into your life. You're going to attract different experiences, more opportunity. And you're like, oh, I don't remember seeing all these things before. But the moment you focus on something, you're going to see more of that, because it's in your awareness.
So also what a lot of people tend to do, and we've talked about this before, is when someone does something to you, most people want to get revenge, and they try to get them back for what they did. But when you really think about that, about what you're doing, like, okay, they did something to you, that's their karma. But the moment you choose to do something back out of revenge, now it's your karma, because you're reacting emotionally, because you're probably angry and frustrated about what the other person did. So it's karma will come back. So you're putting out the same exact emotions that they did. So it's like, if they did something bad to you, now you're choosing to do something bad to them. And it doesn't work. It's not going to work out for you. So it's like, just wish them well, and don't allow them to affect you, because if they're angry with you, then it's like, okay, just send them good thoughts and wish them well, and just be done with it. And the universe will just handle things the way it needs to be handled. Yeah. And you don't even have to do anything. And it's because it's not your issue. If they're choosing to be angry with you for something, that's their own thing that they're doing to themselves.
You mentioned the law of karma. Law of karma really means action. Mm-hmm. And what that means is the things that we do, it's also known as the universal law of cause and effect. And it's every cause has an effect. You do something that's going to have an effect, it's going to have a result. And when there's an effect, it's going to create another cause to something. So the law of karma, as you mentioned, let's say that scenario is your actions are going to have some type of an effect. Your habits, the things that you do. But where do we get the idea to take that action step? It starts in your thought. It starts in an idea. You think about something, and then it is an emotion, whether it's excitement or anger. So in that, let's say that scenario, someone does something, you're going to have a thought of what that represents, what that means to you. And you're thinking, well, I'm going to do this. It starts as an idea first in your mind. And then the emotion of, let's say, anger amplifies that. Mm-hmm. And now that's going to show up as your attitude and your behavior. And that's going to tell you what step to take next. And that might be to retaliate back. But there's going to be an effect to that. Mm-hmm. Things we do, if you're having a hard time in relationships, is you have a thought about a relationship, what it's going to be like, and you have an emotion to that, and you move forward with that or you don't. You retract. That's still an action step. Or you end a relationship quickly because maybe you're afraid of getting hurt, and you can sabotage yourselves by that. Mm-hmm. But everything starts in a thought process first as an idea. If we learn to change the way that we think, and we learn to change the way that we feel, then we're going to take completely different action steps. Yeah. Our consciousness is going to come into play and say, you know what? Think about what your actions are going to be, or the effect is going to be because of your actions. Yeah. And you can choose. I can choose not to, or you say, I'm willing to take that risk, and it happens, and what happens. But you get to choose, and it all starts in thought.
Yeah. And so even if the person did something and maybe you decide not to do anything in retaliation, but then you're constantly dwelling on that person and just, maybe telling yourself how horrible they are and judging them and putting like negative energy towards them, that's still just as bad as if you're taking the action, because you're putting out that energy, and it's all about energy. So whether the action is just the manifestation of your thoughts, but if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts towards that person because they hurt you or they did something, you're only hurting yourself. So think about that one.
Think about it. and that's a big thing. So we have to really learn to change the way that we think. And when we change the way that we think, it'll change the way that we feel. And when we change the way that we feel, we start to do different things. We start to attract different experiences in our life. And you're going to have to play around with this. You're going to have to work with it. You might have had certain experiences of that, and then on both sides of the equation. Yeah. And the next time, now that you're being more aware and you're paying attention to how you feel about certain things. And if you got part of you that says, don't do this because something bad might happen. But like you said, if you're thinking about it and you're starting to feel bad or upset, maybe it's a distant thought, but you're not going to say anything about it. You're just you're going to ball it all up. Well, it's going to show up as an action or an effect in your body. It's going to show up in your behavior, or you might even attract something completely different, or another person that does something similar, or an event in your life. So you want to be very mindful of this. And the more you pay attention to it, it'll make more sense to you. But if this is the first time really hearing anything like this, just look around you, notice, be aware. And when you're more aware, then that's when you can really start making changes and fine tuning a few things.
And go ahead.
And if you need more help with this, that's what we specialize in. Mm-hmm. You can always reach out to us. You can shoot us a private message here. And if there's anything that we can help you with, you want to track something better in your life, we help you to manifest what you want.
And this is the lesson that Jesus tried to teach, the people around him when he was being nailed to the cross, when they were crucifying him, and he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's, they were doing this to him, to his physical body, and he still was forgiving of them. Like they don't know what they're doing because it's going to go back to them. And, he was still in that forgiveness, even though he was being tortured. Yeah. And it's a practice. And those are the lessons that, he tried to teach people. Yeah. And it's, when you can see it from that way, it's like, wow, like he was strong and powerful to be able to do that. And we're taught just the opposite. Like in movies, we hear it like someone, does something bad. Okay, we do something bad to them, but that's not the right way to.
The hero and the villain. The villain's always going to lose out, and depending on what movie it is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, remember, we're conditioned like that. So what if we can condition ourselves to be able to shed love and to everybody? Like, what kind of a world would that be? And what I mean by that too is, what kind of a world would you live in if you were to work on that?
Yeah. All right. So we are out of time.
Well, that's the end of our show for today. We hope this has been helpful. If you guys know there's anybody that can benefit from this message, please share this on your timeline or share this with them, this video. Because again, we never know who this message is going to impact. We're live here every week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. You guys would like to join us here live. We're both live on Facebook and YouTube. On Facebook, just make sure you turn on that live notification button to get reminded each time we go live. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and click that little bell icon so you always have a notification when we have a new video that's posted.
All right.
And we will see you guys next time.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.